as well as many of you in here appreciate about Brian. When I describe Brian to strangers, they often view him as a fictional character. I tell them of his volunteer service in Africa, where he vaccinated people with diseases, and his excursion through Southeast Asia, where he walked thousands of miles to raise money for orphan children. Most of the time, people assume he's just some hippie Peace Corps guy, gallivanting around the world and not in touch with reality. But then I tell him he's actually a very intelligent guy who's top of his class, went to BC, and is currently enrolled in med school. Many find these facts about Brian pretty interesting, but what I appreciate most about him is his down-to-earth mentality and his sense of humor. When it comes to making people laugh, Brian is always willing to go the extra mile. To put it lightly, he's not afraid to put his cojones on the table. He truly embodies the saying, Hakuna Matata, which means to live life with no worries, made famous by the hit Disney movie, The Lion King. For example, back in our teenage years, our dad and his brother Tej would take us on an annual canoeing trip up in Vermont with our cousins. One day while loading up our canoes, Brian and our cousin Mike decided they would opt out of their swim trunks for the day. Instead, they grabbed a leaf, positioned it in front of their packages, and tied it around their waist with some fishing line. No shirts, shoes, or anything, just a leaf each. I think they were trying to be more aerodynamic on the water, but I could be wrong. A couple hours into our journey downstream, we noticed two people in a canoe paddling out to Brian and our cousin Mike. They pulled alongside their canoe and mentioned that they were with a local newspaper and were interviewing people on the river that day. They asked them questions like, what brings you out here today? Are you enjoying your time on the river, etc. Long story short, they kept their composure, crushed the interview, fully naked. I'm pretty sure Tej was dry heaving, he was laughing so hard. Debunk. Fast forward to Brian studying abroad in Spain his junior year of college. Instead of coming home at the end of the semester, he begged his college roommate, Joe, to meet him in Bangkok, Thailand. Joe, staying true to himself, opted to skip the entire week of his finals at his study abroad program in Australia to rage with Brian. I'm not sure how many days the two hung around Bangkok, but I can assure you that it probably looked a lot like the Hangover Part 2 movie, if you're familiar with that. They partied around the clock, fueled by local beers, pad thai by the town, and questionable behavior. One night, at around 3 or 4 in the morning, the pair stumbled out of the bar into an alleyway to head back to their hotel. The legend has it, they walked by a tattoo shop that was closing on their way back, and Brian demanded that they could both get tattoos. Joe hopped up on the tattooist table first, laid down face first, and took the new tattoo like a champ. Brian then hops onto the table and says something along the lines of, double the size of that tattoo. Brian, numbed by a buzz of a night out in Bangkok, takes a new tattoo like a champ too. Now you're probably asking yourself, where are these tattoos located? And what do they say? So, both Brian and Joe have the saying, Hakuna Matata, tattooed on one of their butt cheeks. Brian, size 36 times New Roman font. Joe, size 18 times New Roman. Now hopefully you could see that Brian, both figuratively and literally, lives his life with no worries. The true Hakuna Matata way. Brian, in case you were wondering, was never really a guy to get tied down with a girlfriend until he met his beautiful bride, Alina, at the end of their senior year in BC. Believe it or not, the first time I met Alina, Brian wasn't even around. I think my parents were out of town and Brian was attending an in-person Berlin fantasy football draft, the infamous Puja Bowl, leaving Alina behind at our house with an older brother she had never met. I remember hanging out by our pool, chatting, and thinking to myself, this Alina's pretty cool. She was down to earth, conversation flowed freely, and all signs pointed to her being a great match for Brian. I was naturally curious, however, to see where the relationship would go, given the fact that Brian was leaving for his trek in Asia soon. Madly in love, the two decided that they would stick together, even though they were continents apart, and that she would meet Brian in Thailand at the end of his journey. Brian kept Alina updated via video chat regularly during the journey, showing off his disgusting beard, his weight loss, and telling her stories about the time he got jumped on a train. As promised, Brian completed his walk on time. The two met in Thailand, no tattoos this time around, I could guarantee that, where they traveled for a bit before settling down in Australia for 6 months. There they worked odd jobs, went to the beach, and just explored. Since then, they've been truly inseparable. They've traveled all over the world, shared many experiences, and I'm sure laughed a ton along the way. Alina, just like many of us, appreciates Brian's funny, easygoing personality, even though he's bogged down with med school work and has an annual income that largely banks on him winning his fantasy football leagues. And Brian, just like many of us here, appreciates Alina's sweet personality and never-ending positivity. Truthfully though, it's an honor to be standing up here tonight, giving this speech to celebrate the marriage of Brian and Alina tonight. So everyone, if you'd please raise your glass. Here's a toast to a perfect couple, to a long life together filled with happiness, adventure, and lots of laughs. Congratulations, guys.
All right. Now we're looking for Miss Maggie Rickenback.
First, I wanted to say thank you to the Videographer families for letting us celebrate Alina and Brian's love at this beautiful reception. Thank you. And Alina, wow. I can't believe this day is here. A day that you and I have talked about since we were little girls. It's here. You found your match, and it couldn't be more perfect. For those of you who don't know, Alina and I met on a playground when we were just 2 years old. How lucky am I to have a lifelong friend that I have witnessed grown into the most caring, smart, beautiful, free-spirited young woman. Anyone who knows Alina well knows that she has the biggest, most welcoming heart. You have been not only an amazing friend to me, but to everyone in this room. You're optimistic, you can literally lift people's spirits up, and you have a smile that can actually light up a room. But, Alina, to me, you will always be my weird, crazy, and sensitive friend. A description we gave ourselves back in high school. We've shared so much over the past 25 years. We've shared Gatorade and orange slices at our soccer games, hula dances at our Girl Scout meetings, Kelly Clarkson concerts. We've shared elementary school teachers. We even shared a belt business that lasted all of 3 days, where we basically sold ribbons to your neighbors. We've shared Halloween costumes, our first beer, and countless nights at John Scott's and the Drift. And we're all here tonight to share and be a part of you and Brian's love. When you and Brian first started dating, I knew Brian was the one for you because of the way you talked about him. Your face lights up when you talk about Brian. One day, on a summer afternoon in 2014, you came over my house to hang out and eat dinner. And I'll never forget this moment. My mom and dad walked into the kitchen and had asked how you were doing. We had just graduated college and you had shared that you now have a boyfriend named Brian. How did you meet? My parents asked. Then came a 25-minute story of how you guys first crossed paths. Alina explains with the big smile of hers on her face that they had met on a bus in BC on the way to the bars. Brian was with two of his friends. Brian tapped Alina on the shoulder to ask her which shorts she liked best out of the three guys. And that is when Alina first connected with Brian. So she therefore cleverly explained how she likes the other two guys' shorts better. This tactic was to get his attention, and that's where it all started. And look at you now, you're married. I want to bring up the fact that me and Alina enjoy reading horoscopes because there's a funny story about it. Alina, born on February 22nd, is a Pisces. She's empathetic, compassionate, never judgmental, and she listens endlessly. Brian, you were born on June 12th. You're a Gemini. You're a hard worker. You have a curious attitude. You're enthusiastic, dedicated, and affectionate. And now for the story. Brian, I'm not even sure if you know this, but before you guys had officially begun dating, Alina called each and one of her friends to start the crying. You had borrowed her computer and was Google searching something, and she had feared that you had seen her Google search, which consisted of Pisces woman, Gemini man, horoscope love compatibility. She was so nervous that you had seen her Google search and you would be weirded out or something like that. But I'm here to tell you for certain there's no need for a Google search. Your compatibility is right here in front of us. It is an authentic, genuine, and true love that you share. Brian, your relaxed and casual demeanor calms Alina down if she's overthinking or second-guessing something. And you are lucky to have the most supportive and caring wife who will bring you Ben and Jerry's at your beckoning call after a long night of studying. Alina and Brian, you guys have already experienced so much together. Island hopping in Southeast Asia, a year abroad in Australia, and now a lovely home in Brooklyn. It's only the beginning. Together you guys have such a bright future, and I cannot wait to watch you both succeed. So if everyone can please raise their glass and share a toast to the newest Mr. and Mrs. Ford, please help me in saying congratulations. We love you, Alina and Brian. Congratulations and all the best in your bright future, and mahalo!